Let's begin today's Vanguard news by expanding Sybilt's backstory by becoming a new deck in Dragon Empire and EZBT-09. Unfortunately, Bushiroad has stopped translating the lore or the web novel, unless some dedicated group translate it for everyone. Unison Dragon Sybilt is your typical D-series starter. That would have been another main character plushie, if not for it being the villain last season. Boy aspiring to join the Protector Spirit, when placed by riding over a Sybilt card, lets you reveal a grade 3 Sybilt card in your right deck, to add up to 1 Spirit and Sybilt who we once were from your deck. Why does every other nation besides Keta Sanctuary seem to have a grade 1 right line card that immediately does something on their first turn? This one in particular gives off how every brand gate right line works ever. Spirit and Sybilt who we once were is a normal order card that can only be played if you have a Spirit or Sybilt Vanguard. When played, put this card into your soul, then your Vanguard gets a once per turn auto ability that lets you add back a rear guard that isn't a sentinel to your hand. If it was retired, that isn't on your main phase. And while in the drop zone, you can bind this card and discard one card when your grade 3 or higher Sybilt card stands by a card's effect to set your Vanguard's drive check to 1. This is basically the normal order version of defensing Raw. And is it just me, or are we starting to become too much like Yu-Gi-Oh, where order cards in the drop zone have secondary effects? Distorted Heart Spirit while on Vanguard lets you retire a rear guard and reveal a grade 3 Sybilt card in your right deck when he attacks. To draw a card, and this unit gets 5k power. For a grade 2 right line unit, this card's ability is oddly short and simple, like the Dev Stop Trying. Malworm Sybilt once per turn while on Vanguard lets you pay 1 Soul Blast to put up to the same number of your rear guards as your opponent's Vanguard's grade in Mental Pollution state. Then they get an auto ability that retires themselves at the end of your turn, as well as 5k power. Once per turn while on Vanguard, you can pay 1 counter blast at the end of the battle it attacked to Vanguard to either stand one of your rear guards in Mental Pollution state or your Vanguard, but their drive checks becomes 0 and they get 10k power. You choose 2 units instead if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher. And once per turn while on Vanguard, draw a card when your rear guard in Mental Pollution state is retired during your end phase. Those expecting that, I would say that this is just Varga with the extra step of getting a new keyword are going to be disappointed, because this is honestly a bit better, as you don't have to rely on a divine skill to do 5 attacks every turn. In fact, this is better as you get to draw a card for one of your retired rear guards. The only downside to this card is Bushiroad could have named this new keyword with less syllables. Was corruption taken? Drag it to Kazam when it becomes in Mental Pollution state during your turn. Gets an auto ability that lets you put itself into your soul when it's retired while on rear guard, as well as 5k power. So what the hell was the point of their order card if this card puts himself into your soul? Drag Rita Shawk once per turn while on the back row, rear guard lets you stand herself when your unit in the same column as her stands while she's in Mental Pollution state. I might be playing too much Monster Hunter lately, but her armor looks like it came from Storm/a Dragon parts, which is ironically what this card's ability does similarly. Demonic Dragon Berserker Baki, while in your drop zone, lets you pay 1 counter blast when you play a normal order card and have a Unison Dragon Vanguard to call himself to rear guard. And while on rear guard during your turn, all your Unison Dragon units get 5k power. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher, then this unit gets 5k power if he's in Mental Pollution state. You know who else is a Unison Dragon? Gryandra. And once again, every other deck gets a Maple clone, while the deck that is supposed to run Maple gets nothing. Finally, Desolate Flare Dragon gets all its effects if you have a Unison Dragon Vanguard. When placed on rear guard, you can pay 1 counter blast to add up to 1 Unison Dragon or normal order card that isn't a Regalis piece from the top 7 cards of your deck. Draw a card instead if you did not add a card with this ability. And while on rear guard, it gets 5k power when it attacks. Then you can pay 3 energy to give one of your rear guards an auto ability that lets you add it back to your hand when it's retired from rear guard. Let's face it, 90% of the time you're going to use its skill on itself to keep reusing both abilities every turn. And that concludes this Vanguard news without the bullshit. Special thanks to my Patreon members for continuing to support my content creation. Be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments if your mind got polluted with ideas on how to build this deck better.